these episodes of anxiety, concern, anger, agitation, mobilization under the sign of sexual violence are not really they're not really about dealing with the problem of sexual violence. That's not what's going on, I'm arguing. What's going on is that they become moments of a particular kind of national recognition, because sexual violence becomes metaphoric. It becomes metaphoric of the damage that is being done to the collective we, to the nation. And that is indeed, that is evident in the fact that, in fact, and feminists in South Africa are saying this all the time, that despite a very progressive constitution, despite the fact that women are now in all kinds of constitutional and legal ways to be protected, despite the fact that the police are supposed to create a whole infrastructure for dealing with sexual violence, in fact, there's a profound disinterest in actually grappling with the problem of sexual violence per se. Okay. I mean, on the question of rape as a weapon of war, I mean, yeah, I think the scenario I'm talking about I'm specifically talking about rape in times of peace, but I do think that in general, we should be we as historians, as social researchers, should be thinking about rape and sexual violence, not simply as, under the rubric of gender studies. I mean, I think we should be thinking much more directly about the place of sexual violence in the production of what has become known as the modern. I mean, it seems to me that that's one of the ways of addressing this. The question of social media and all of these postings and the kind of, on the one hand, the sort of salaciousness of the exchanges, and on the other hand, the publicity of intimate details and making public things that would previously have been kept between people. That's exactly what Mark Seltzer is talking about. That's exactly the kind of pathological publicity assigned to the stuff that he's talking about. And the point that I'm making about what's different in the South African case is that in the case of the rapes that have excited these kinds of eruptions of national recognition, they are specifically not about individuals. Those individuals are made into types. That's the way in which this kind of interpolation has been produced, by not individualizing them, by blurring them, by making them indistinct, simply as exemplars and products of a particular kind of social milieu, which, as I'm suggesting, is very different from the case of Oscar Pistorius and the woman he murdered, Reeva Steenkamp. Because in that instance, South Africans by now know an incredible amount about her life, about, she was beautiful. I mean, this is reiterated again and again. There are photographs of her that circulate endlessly in this news coverage. As I say, many members of her family are interviewed, and they asked, what was she like? What kind of person? Where did she go to school? What were her dreams for the future? What were her values? What did she stand for? How do you want to remember her? A whole series of questions that were absolutely absent in the case of Anine Booysen, who was raped just a few months before Reeva Steenkamp was killed, which shows you that these two cases of violence are doing very different kinds of work in the public domain. They are constituting public discussion in very, very different kinds of ways.